The winter wind cut through Tom's thin jacket like a knife. At 19, he had nowhere to go. The foster care system had let him go when he turned 18. And now he walked through the small English town of Millbrook with only a worn backpack. And 20 pounds in his pocket. Snow began to fall as Tom knocked on door after door. "Please," he would say, "I just need a warm place to sleep tonight." Most people looked at him with fear or pity before closing their doors. His hands were turning red from the cold, and his stomach ached from hunger. Tom pulled his jacket tighter round his body. But it did not help much. The jacket was old and had holes in it. He had owned it for 3 years, and it was the only warm thing he had. His shoes were wet from walking in the snow, and his feet felt like blocks of ice. He thought about the group home where he had lived until last month. It was not a perfect place, but at least it had been warm. The workers there had tried to help him find a job and a place to live, but everything was so expensive. Tom had no family to help him. He had been in foster care since he was 8 years old, moving from home to home. As he walked down another street, Tom saw families inside their warm houses through the windows. He could see people eating dinner together and watching television. Children were laughing and playing games. Tom felt very alone. He wondered if anyone would ever care about him. The snow was falling harder now. Tom's backpack felt heavy on his shoulders inside it. He had 2 changes of clothes, a book, and a picture of his mother. She had died when he was young, and he barely remembered her face. But he kept her picture because it was the only thing he had left of his real family. Tom knocked on another door. An old man answered and looked at him with angry eyes. "Go away," the man said. "We don't want your type here." The door slammed shut, and Tom felt his heart break a little more. He sat down on a bench and put his head in his hands. Maybe he should just give up. Maybe he should find a bridge to sleep under, or an old building where no one would find him. Tom had heard stories about young people like him who had frozen to death on cold nights like this one. But something inside Tom told him to keep trying. He stood up and brushed the snow off his clothes. He would knock on one more door. If no one helped him, then he would find somewhere else to spend the night, even if it was dangerous. Just when Tom thought he might freeze, he saw a small house with a warm light glowing in the window. The house was not big or fancy, but it looked cozy. There were pretty curtains in the windows and a small garden in front. Tom could smell something cooking inside, and his stomach growled loudly. He walked slowly to the front door. His hand shook as he lifted it to knock. What if this person was mean to him too? What if they called the police? Tom was so tired of being rejected and treated like he was not worth helping. The door opened, and a woman with kind eyes looked out at him. Her name was Emma, and she was 35 years old, raising her 7-year-old daughter Lucy all by herself. Emma had brown hair that was tied back in a simple ponytail, and she wore a warm sweater that looked handmade. "I don't have much," Tom said, his voice shaking from the cold, "but I can work for food or just a place to sleep." Emma looked at this young man standing in the snow. His lips were blue from the cold, and she could see that he was shivering badly. Something in her heart told her to trust him. She had very little money herself, working 2 jobs to pay the bills. But she remembered what it felt like to need help. When Emma was younger, she had been homeless for a short time after losing her job. A kind stranger had helped her then, giving her a place to stay until she could get back on her feet. That act of kindness had changed her life, and she had never forgotten it. "Come in from the cold," Emma said softly. "Let's start with some hot tea." As Tom stepped inside, he felt warm for the first time in weeks. The house smelled like soup and bread. and he could hear a child's voice coming from the kitchen. Emma led him to a chair by the fireplace and brought him a thick blanket. "Sit here and warm up," she said. "I'll make you some tea." Tom could not believe what was happening. This woman did not know him at all, but she was being so kind to him. He wrapped the blanket round himself and felt his body slowly start to warm up. For the first time in months, he felt safe. He didn't know that this moment would change his life forever. Emma led Tom to her small kitchen. The house was modest but clean and filled with love. 7-year-old Lucy sat at the table, coloring pictures for school. She looked up at Tom with curious eyes but no fear. The kitchen was warm and cozy. There were drawings stuck to the refrigerator with colorful magnets. A pot of soup was cooking on the stove, and the smell made Tom's mouth water. He had not eaten a proper meal in 2 days, and his stomach was making loud noises. Lucy had blonde hair like her mother and bright blue eyes. She was wearing a school uniform with a small stain on the front where she had spilled something earlier. Her coloring book was open to a picture of a house with flowers in the garden. She was using a red crayon to color the roof. "Mom, is he staying for a dinner?" Lucy asked in her sweet voice. Emma hadn't planned on it, but seeing Tom's grateful face, she nodded. "Yes, love. We're having soup and bread tonight." Tom felt embarrassed. "I don't want to take your food," he said quietly. "You have already done so much for me." Emma smiled and stirred the soup. "There is plenty for everyone," she said. "Besides, food always tastes better when you share it with someone." Lucy jumped up from her chair and ran to get another bowl from the cupboard. "I'll help set the table," she said happily. She was excited to have a visitor. Most evenings, it was just her and her mother eating dinner together. As Emma served the soup, Tom noticed how simple everything was. The bowls were old but clean. The bread was from the local shop. Not homemade, but everything felt special because of the love in this little kitchen. Tom had forgotten what it felt like to be welcome somewhere. As they ate together, Tom was amazed. He hadn't sat at a family table in years. The soup was delicious, made with vegetables and chicken. Emma had added herbs that made it smell wonderful. The bread was warm and soft, and Emma gave Tom butter to spread on it. Lucy chatted about her school day and showed him her drawings. She told him about her teacher, Miss Davies, who was very nice. She talked about her best friend Sarah, who had a pet rabbit. Lucy was learning to read chapter books, and she was very proud of this. "I can read almost any word now," Lucy said with a big smile. "Mom says I'm getting very clever." Emma watched how gently Tom spoke to her daughter, how he listened to every word Lucy said. Many adults ignored children or pretended to listen while thinking about other things. But Tom asked Lucy questions about her drawings and seemed really interested in her answers. "That's a beautiful house you colored," Tom said, looking at Lucy's picture. "I like how you made the flowers so bright." Lucy beamed with pride. "I want to live in a house like that someday," she said, "with a big garden where I can play outside." Tom felt a pain in his chest. This little girl had dreams and hopes, just like he had once had. But unlike him, Lucy had a mother who loved her and took care of her. Lucy would never have to sleep on the streets or knock on strangers' doors asking for help. "Where do you live?" Lucy asked Tom innocently. Tom's face grew sad. He did not want to lie to this sweet child, but he also did not want to frighten her. "I don't have a home right now, Lucy," he said softly. Lucy looked confused. "Everyone has a home," she said. "Where do you sleep at night?" Emma saw that Tom was struggling to answer. "Tom is looking for a new place to live," she told her daughter gently. Sometimes that takes time. After dinner, Lucy showed Tom more of her drawings. She had drawn pictures of animals and flowers and her school. One drawing showed 3 stick figures holding hands. "That's me, Mom, and my daddy," Lucy explained. Tom noticed Emma's face change when Lucy mentioned her father. Later, when Lucy was brushing her teeth, Emma told Tom quietly. Lucy's father left when she was 4. She still misses him sometimes. Tom understood why Emma had been kind to him. She knew what it was like to be alone and to struggle. She knew what it felt like when someone you trusted let you down. As Tom prepared to leave, he put on his then jacket and picked up his backpack. "Thank you for the meal," he said. "I will never forget your kindness." But Emma surprised herself by saying, "The sofa is yours tonight. Tomorrow we'll figure something out." Tom's eyes filled with tears. He had not cried in years. But Emma's words broke down the wall he had built round his heart. "I promise I won't cause any trouble. I'll be gone early in the morning." But Emma shook her head. "You will not trouble, Tom. Sometimes we all need a little help." Emma brought Tom a pillow and a warm blanket. Lucy said good night to him as if he was part of the family. That night, as Tom lay on the comfortable sofa with a warm blanket, he couldn't remember the last time someone had shown him such kindness. For the first time in months, he felt safe. 1 night became 3, then a week. Tom didn't want to take advantage of Emma's kindness, so he made himself useful. He fixed the leaky tap Emma couldn't afford to repair. He walked Lucy to school each morning and helped her with homework in the evenings. Tom had learned many skills during his years in foster care. He knew how to fix broken things because foster families often could not afford to call repairmen. He could cook simple meals and do laundry. These skills had helped him survive on his own, and now they helped him show Emma how grateful he was. The leaky tap in the kitchen had been dripping for months. Emma had put a bowl underneath to catch the water, but the sound kept her awake at night. Tom found some old tools in Emma's couch and spent an afternoon taking the tap apart. He walked to the hardware store and used some of his £20 to buy a new washer. When Emma came home from work, the tap was fixed. "How did you learn to do that?" Emma asked, amazed. Tom shrugged. "You learn things when you have to," he said simply. Every morning, Tom walked Lucy to school. The school was 6 blocks away, and Emma usually had to rush to get Lucy there before going to work. Now Emma could take her time getting ready while Tom made Lucy's breakfast and helped her find her school books. Lucy loved having Tom walk with her. They would play games like counting red cars or looking for dogs in the windows. Lucy would tell Tom about her friends at school and what she was learning in her lessons. Tom enjoyed these walks too. He had never had anyone depend on him before, and it made him feel important. In the afternoons, when Lucy came home from school, Tom would help her with her homework. Lucy was learning to read harder words and do simple math problems. Tom was patient with her, never making her feel bad when she made mistakes. "You're a good teacher," Lucy told him one day as they worked on her spelling words. Tom felt proud. "You're a good student," he replied. "You try hard, and that's what matters." Emma worked long hours at the local shop and cleaned offices at night. She left for her first job at 8 in the morning and did not come home until after 9 at night. She was always tired, and her back hurt from standing all day and cleaning floors at night. When she came home tired, Tom would have dinner ready and Lucy's school clothes laid out for the next day. He would make simple meals like pasta with sauce or beans on toast. Nothing fancy, but the food was hot and ready when Emma walked through the door. Emma would sit at the kitchen table and eat while Tom helped Lucy with her bath and got her ready for This gave Emma a few minutes to rest and not worry about anything. For the first time in years, she did not have to do everything by herself. "You don't have to do all this," Emma told him one evening as she watched Tom fold Lucy's school uniforms. Tom smiled. "You gave me more than a place to sleep, Emma. You gave me a purpose." Emma felt tears in her eyes. She had been so focused on helping Tom that she had not realized how much he was helping her. Having Tom there made her feel like she was not alone anymore. She had someone to share the daily work of taking care of Lucy and keeping the house running. Lucy had grown attached to Tom. She called him her big brother and saved her best drawings to show him. When she drew pictures of her family, she now included 3 stick figures instead of 2. She would wait by the window for Tom to come back when he went to the shops, and she always wanted to sit next to him at dinner. Tom had never had a little sister before, and Lucy had never had a big brother. They were both learning what family could feel like. Tom learned that it felt good to have someone excited to see him every day. Lucy learned that families could grow and change, and that love could include people who were not related by blood. The neighbors began to notice the young man living with Emma and Lucy. At first, some of them wondered who he was and why he was there, but instead of gossip or judgment, something beautiful happened. Old Mr. James from next door offered Tom more jobs. His fence needed painting, and his garden needed weeding. He paid Tom fairly and treated him with respect. "You're a good worker," Mr. James told him. "Emma is lucky to have your help." Mrs. Williams from across the street brought over extra vegetables from her garden. She had grown too many tomatoes and carrots, and she thought Tom and Emma's family might enjoy them. She started stopping by for short chats and became friends with Emma. The whole street began to feel more connected. People who had lived next to each other for years started talking more. They helped each other with small tasks and looked out for each other's children. Tom's presence had somehow made everyone more neighborly. Tom started to believe that maybe, just maybe, he deserved good things in his life. For so many years, he had felt like he was not worth caring about. But Emma and Lucy cared about him. And now the neighbors did too. Emma watched him grow more confident each day, and she realized that helping Tom had helped her too. She no longer felt alone in raising Lucy. Word spread through Millbrook about Emma's kindness and Tom's hard work. People in the small town began to talk about the young man who had helped fix Mrs. Williams' broken gate and painted Mr. James' fence so well. They noticed how polite Tom was when he walked Lucy to school, and how he always said hello with a smile. At the local hardware store, the owner, Robert, needed help. Robert was a kind man in his 50s who had run the store for 20 years. He had heard from Mr. James about Tom's good work and honest nature. One morning, when Tom came in to buy some screws for Emma's wobbly kitchen chair, Robert made him an offer. "I hear you're good with repairs," Robert told Tom. "Would you like a part-time job?" Tom couldn't believe it. His first real job. He had never had a proper job before, just odd tasks here and there. His hands shook as he shook Robert's hand to accept the offer. "I won't let you down, sir," Tom said, his voice full of excitement and nervousness. Robert smiled. "I can tell you're a good lad. Be here tomorrow at 8 in the morning, and we'll get you started." Tom ran all the way home to tell Emma and Lucy. Lucy jumped up and down with joy, and Emma hugged him tightly. "I'm so happy for you," she said. "This is wonderful news." Tom worked hard at the hardware store, learning everything he could. Robert showed him how to organize the shelves and help customers find what they needed. Tom learned about different types of screws and nails, about paint and brushes, about tools and how to use them properly. Robert was impressed with Tom's dedication and began teaching him about business. He showed Tom how to count the money in the register and how to keep track of what they sold each day. Tom was a quick learner and never complained about any task, even the boring ones like sweeping the floor or moving heavy boxes. "You have a good head for this work," Robert told him after Tom had been working for 3 weeks. "You're reliable and honest. Those are rare qualities." Tom felt proud. He had never had anyone tell him he was good at anything before. At the Foster homes, he had always felt like he was just in the way. But here, Robert depended on him and trusted him with important tasks at the community center. The director named Helen heard Tom's story from Emma, who had brought Lucy there for after-school activities. Helen was a woman who cared deeply about helping young people who had difficult starts in life. "We have a program for young people like you," Helen told Tom when Emma introduced them. "We can help you get your qualifications and maybe even go to college." Tom had never thought about college. He had barely finished school because he had moved from home to home so many times. But Helen explained that there were special programs for people who wanted to learn. "No matter how old they were, you're still young," Helen said kindly. "You have your whole life ahead of you. With some studying, you could learn a trade or even become an engineer if that interests you." Tom signed up for evening classes to get his basic qualifications 3 nights a week after work at the hardware store. He would go to the community center to study math and English. It was hard work, especially after a full day at the store. But Tom was determined. Lucy's teacher, Miss Davies, noticed how much Lucy had grown since Tom became part of her life. Lucy had always been a quiet child who kept to herself. But now, she talked more in class and played with the other children during break time. "Lucy is more confident now," Miss Davies told Emma during a parent meeting. "Having Tom round has been wonderful for her. She talks about him often and seems very happy." Emma felt grateful. She had worried that Lucy missed having a father figure, but Tom had filled that role naturally. He was patient with Lucy and treated her like she was the most important person in the world. Every day brought new hope. Tom was saving money from his job. He kept his wages in a small tin box under his bed, and every week he would count the money and feel amazed that it was growing. He was studying for his exams, staying up late with his books spread out on Emma's kitchen table. But most importantly, he was learning what it meant to belong somewhere. Tom had a routine now. He had people who cared about him and people who depended on him. He had a place at the dinner table and someone to say goodnight to him each evening. Emma watched Tom grew from a scared young man into someone with dreams and plans. She saw him become more confident at work and more hopeful about his future. When his first exam results came back and he had passed everything, Emma was as proud as any mother would be. "I'm proud of you," she told him one evening as they sat in the living room after Lucy had gone to bed. Tom hugged her. "You saved my life, Emma. You and Lucy both did." But Emma knew the truth. Tom had saved them too. Before Tom arrived, Emma had felt overwhelmed and alone. Now she had help with everything and someone to share her worries with. Lucy had a big brother who loved her. And Emma had found the family she had always wanted. Their little family was complete now, and they were all stronger together than they had ever been alone. 2 years later, Tom had his own small flat above Robert's hardware store. He was studying engineering at the local college and had become the big brother Lucy had always needed. The 3 of them still had dinner together every Sunday. Tom's flat was small but cozy. It had 1 bedroom, a tiny kitchen, and a sitting area with a window that looked out over the main street of Millbrook. Robert had offered him the flat at a low rent because Tom was such a good worker. Tom had painted the walls himself and bought second-hand furniture to make it feel like home. At college, Tom was doing well in his engineering classes. The math was hard, but he worked with other students who helped him when he got stuck. His teachers were impressed with how determined he was to learn. Tom often stayed late in the college library, reading textbooks and working on projects. On Sunday evenings, Tom would walk down the stairs from his flat and go to Emma's house for dinner. These Sunday meals had become a tradition that all three of them looked forward to. Emma would cook a roast dinner with vegetables, and Tom would bring dessert from the local bakery. Lucy would tell them about school and her friends, and Tom would share stories about his college classes. "I'm so proud of how far you've come," Emma would often tell Tom. Tom would smile, knowing that none of it would have been possible without her kindness that cold winter night. On a cold winter evening, just like the night Tom first arrived, there was a knock at Emma's door. Emma was washing dishes after dinner while Lucy did her homework at the kitchen table. Tom was upstairs in his flat, studying for an important exam. Emma opened the door and saw a young girl standing there, shivering and scared. The girl had long, dark hair that was wet from the snow, and her clothes were too thin for the cold weather. Her name was Beth, and she was 16 years old. She had run away from a bad situation at home where people had hurt her and made her feel worthless. "Please," Beth said, her voice shaking. "I just need somewhere warm to stay tonight. I have a little money. I can pay you something." Emma looked at this frightened girl and remembered another cold night 2 years ago when Tom had stood in the same place, her heart filled with the same feeling of wanting to help. Emma looked at Tom, who had heard the voices and come downstairs to see what was happening. They both knew what to do without having to discuss it. "Come in from the cold," Emma said, just as she had said to Tom 2 years ago. "Let's start with some hot tea." Beth stepped inside, and Emma wrapped a warm blanket round her shoulders. Lucy looked up from her homework and smiled at Beth the same way she had smiled at Tom. When they first met, Tom helped Beth get settled on the same sofa where he had once slept. He brought her the same pillow and blanket that Emma had given him. As Beth warmed up by the fire, Tom sat in a chair nearby and told her his story. 2 years ago, I was just like you," Tom said gently. "I was scared and had nowhere to go. Emma and Lucy took me in and changed my life. Things were very hard at first, but they got better every day." Beth listened with wide eyes. She could hardly believe that this confident young man had once been in the same situation as her. "Will you help me find a job?" Beth asked Tom, hope creeping into her voice. "Of course," Tom smiled. "And Emma will help you with everything else. That's what families do." Emma made Beth a bowl of soup and gave her some of Lucy's old clothes to wear while her own clothes dried. Beth ate slowly, savoring every bite. She had not had a proper meal in 3 days. As the evening went on, Beth began to relax. Lucy showed her some of her school books and drawings, just as she had shown Tom years before. Emma made up the sofa with clean sheets and gave Beth a warm nightgown to wear. As Beth fell asleep that first night, safe and warm, Tom understood something important. The kindness Emma had shown him wasn't just about helping one person. It was about creating a circle of caring that would keep growing. Tom realized that every act of kindness creates more kindness. Because Emma had helped him, he was now able to help Beth, and someday, when Beth was strong and confident, she would help someone else who needed it. Lucy, now 9 years old, whispered to Tom as they said goodnight to Beth, "Are we going to help Beth like you helped us?" Tom nodded and smiled. "Yes, Lucy. And someday, Beth will help someone else too." The next morning, Tom took Beth to meet Robert at the hardware store. Robert needed someone to help with the filing and answering the phone, and he was happy to give Beth a chance. Helen at the community center enrolled Beth in the same classes Tom had taken to get his qualifications. Within a few weeks, Beth was settled into a routine. She worked part-time at the hardware store, studied in the evenings, and had dinner with Emma, Tom, and Lucy on Sundays. The circle of their family had grown again. Outside, the snow fell softly on the little town of Millbrook, where kindness had taught them all that home isn't just a place, it's the people who choose to love you when you need it most. The end.